to start this program off in honor of a truly outstanding man. In looking for definitions for friendship and leadership, both of which truly identify Jeff Walter, I find that friendship means fellowship, companionship, affection, and goodwill. Leadership means decision-making, command, influence, organization, and executive ability. And then you put into that, with a man with a heart as big as this room, you have Jeff Walter. And what not a better way to start tonight than to have our truly outstanding Senator, Senator Chris Murphy, with us. Senator Murphy. All right.
Thank you very much, Larry. I just wanted to very briefly be able to join you this evening with such a great crowd, a testament to how beloved Jeff is across the state. To add my thanks. We were just chatting for a brief few moments, and Jeff was saying some very nice things to me about some of the things that I'm working on in the United States Senate, and that seems so backwards to me because, as you know, when you get into a particular profession, whatever you've chosen, it's those first few years, those first few moments that determine whether you're going to do the job right or not, largely based upon the people that are around you, who you just get to be, by circumstance, your mentors. And I didn't know I was going to work in the field of healthcare policy. I didn't know that I was going to be somebody that worked in the field of mental health. But when I got to be chairman of the Public Health Committee at 29 years old in the state legislature, I found myself sitting next to Jeff Walter at Behavioral Health Partnership Oversight Committee meetings. We were in name co-chairs, but really Jeff did everything, and I just showed up every 2 weeks. But what happened is that I learned an awful lot. I learned an awful lot about the details of how our mental health system works, and eventually became, I hope, somebody who did some of the right things occasionally. But more than that, I became somebody who deeply cared about the population that was being served, because the compassion and the commitment that Jeff had just reflected out on everybody that sat next to him. And you're all here, I bet you, because you felt some of that same passion and compassion reflect upon you. I mean, Jeff is always the coolest head in the room, always the person who is sort of thinking in terms of the long term. But even with that coolness and collectedness, you still sort of sense how much he cares about the people that Rushford and the people that Jeff has served over these years. And so I guess I care about this issue because Jeff cared about this issue. I guess that I work in this field in part because I was around somebody who taught me the way to do it right. I know he's not going to go far. I know that he's going to continue to stay involved, but I'm just thankful that I got to spend a portion of my career, the beginning portions of my career, learning from Jeff. And I know that you're here because of that. And of course, the people who aren't here are the literally tens of thousands of patients whose lives are better either because they've been directly touched by the work that Jeff has done, or because of the advocacy that he did in his spare time up at the state capitol affected their lives in a positive way. And now, of course, he's bringing his talents to the national level. He's building out models that systems of care all across the country are using. The idea that the difference that Jeff has made here in Connecticut now maybe will witness a benefit to people all across the country. Well, that's a rare, rare legacy that very few people in this field get to leave. A retirement dinner that is standing room only, tens of thousands of people in your home state whose lives have been changed because of you, and a nation that looks to you for leadership. Jeff, I'm really thrilled that you chose this state as the place that you would make your mark, and that you you chose me as one of the people that you would take under your wing to try to make a champion for the causes that have made your life mean so much to this state and this country. Thanks for having me here, guys.
Thank you very much, Senator, for those outstanding remarks. It gives me a great honor now to introduce Steve Larson, President of Rushford.
First, I want to thank Chris, as we know him, and Senator Murphy for making time in his schedule to join us tonight and really give Jeff the recognition and the acknowledgement of his impact, not only on each of us, but on a key policymaker that's in Washington working on these issues every day. So, Senator, thank you very much for being here and making this happen. I know you have to abscond here in about 30 seconds, but we really appreciate you making this possible. Thank you. Jeff and I go way back. Some of you know this story and some may not. We've been colleagues nearly 4 decades. We've been a collaborator with each other on many, many projects and initiatives. We've partnered in our efforts to really advocate for mental health improvements and addiction improvements throughout the state. And we're friends. We are friends. We both started our careers in Eastern Connecticut nearly 4 decades ago. And I was looking at Jeff's resume this morning. We actually had the same title, program developers. You know, nowadays, I guess if you want to be president, you're supposed to be a community organizer. But I think our program developer is pretty close to that, don't you think, Jeff? Yeah. Our first collaboration together, really truly a partnership, was when we developed a crisis intervention grant some 3.5 decades ago to fund crisis intervention that would link mental health services and social services. Jeff was at the Community Action Agency, I was at the Community Mental Health Center, and it was an important lesson for me, not only the importance of recognizing that it's not just about mental health treatment or addiction treatment, it really is about the social needs and the entire support that's available to those that we serve. And partnering with a guy like Jeff really drove that point home to me very early in my career. We both became CEOs before we were 30. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we started out as leaders very early in our careers. And Jeff started as CEO of Rushford. Of course, back in those days, it was a Tri-County Alcohol Council. But if you look at what Jeff accomplished over his 3+ decades at Rushford, Rushford was first in many areas. It was one of the first addiction treatment centers in the state to go for Joint Commission accreditation. It was one of the first addiction treatment centers in the state to recognize the link between addiction and mental health and the importance of linking and unifying those services. It was one of the first centers in the state to really embrace prevention and sustain it. And all the budget cuts and all the changes that we've gone through over the last 3 decades, Rushford has maintained its commitment to prevention and its interest in children that are so important in really trying to break the cycle of addiction and mental health issues. It was many years later that we really collaborated again. And it was when Jeff, nearly 2 decades ago, was a founding member of Advanced Behavioral Health. And Advanced Behavioral Health was an effort by providers to come together and really try to manage care, try to make sure people got the right care at the right place at the right time. It was really way ahead of its time, if you think about it. Jeff really saw the importance of providers coming together, not just being the victim, if you will, of managed care, but actually being the organizers and the proactive agents to make sure people got what they needed, when they needed it, and in the most efficient way possible. He had his vision, you know, and the senator talked about that, you know, the kind of, actually, no, it was Larry who talked about it in terms of the calmness and the looking ahead. You know, when Medicaid became managed back in the mid-90s, Jeff saw how important this would be to mental health services. He finagled a way onto the Medicaid Council. I'm not quite sure how he did that, but he got himself appointed to the Medicaid Council, and very shortly after that he chaired the Behavioral Health Subcommittee of that council. And if you think about it, there were a lot of people that were out in the field just trying to figure out how to react to managed care. Jeff was on the forefront, making sure he was in the room, at the table, making sure that addiction services and mental health services were adequately represented as we move forward with the management of one of the largest payers of mental health care in the state, which is Medicaid. And that led, of course, to the creation, ultimately, of the Behavioral Health Partnership that the Senator spoke about. And Jeff's leadership of the Behavioral Health Partnership, I've been honored to be a member of that council now for most of its existence. And it's a very interesting process because what the Behavioral Health Partnership has done is brought the providers, the family members that use our services, advocates, public policymakers, and legislators all in a room together. And we all have separate realities. There's no question about that. But Jeff has been very skillful at finding the common ground within all those divergent constituencies to move the ball forward and keep moving the ball forward. So that is not only vision, that's leadership, it's tact. He may be the calmest person in the room because we're all throwing things at each other, you know. But he steers the process in a very constructive way that has kept the Behavioral Health Partnership alive. And whenever a governor comes along and says, well, we really need this, it'll be a budget saving, let's get rid of this thing, the groundswell of support from family members, from legislators, from policymakers, we need to keep this, makes sure that we are still moving in the right direction. So Rushford and Natchog both joined Hartford Healthcare some 16 years ago. It was kind of interesting. We both came into the system really the same year in 1998. And out of that, we were able to create the Behavioral Health Network that at that time included Mid-State Medical Center and Mid-State Behavioral Health, Rushford, Natchog, and Institute of Living. It was the first time in Connecticut that those kinds of providers came together under one corporate umbrella to begin doing not only advocacy, but to organize our services and really identify community needs and coordinate our response to those community needs. Again, Jeff was on the ground floor of that. And one of the major things that we did is we said, wait a minute, we have Advanced Behavioral Health and they're doing mostly work with the public sector and with various state agencies. You know, we really need to have a private sector option for the insurance companies. And so we created Behavioral Health Connecticut. And again, Jeff stepped up, was the Vice President of Operations for Behavioral Health Connecticut. And we got up at our peak to 250,000 lives in Connecticut that we were responsible for ensuring that people got the care they needed and that providers, we demonstrated that providers could really manage the care. That was a long time ago, 1998. We understood then that the value proposition of what we do and the outcomes of what we do is important. Boy, isn't that important today as healthcare reform has swept through our business. So again, Jeff on the ground floor of a very visionary initiative. I could go on, and I won't. But you know, Jeff has, you've already heard about his role as the chairman of the National Council of Behavioral Health of 2,400 organizations, his role as a leader of Behavioral Health Partnership. The people in this room, the number of CEOs of most of the community mental health centers, several addiction agencies, community health centers. What does that tell you? It tells you that he has the respect of his colleagues, that he's made an impact on people. This is a work night, you know, people are coming out, and they're coming out to recognize Jeff and to honor Jeff. So tonight we celebrate his accomplishments and the many people, as the Senator talked about, that he's touched. And I'm honored to have you as a friend, Jeff. Thank you very much.
One of the truly outstanding things that we have here in Middlesex County and the Central Connecticut region is a truly outstanding group of volunteers. People that give up of their time, their energy, and are dedicated to certain causes throughout our region. It gives me a great honor to introduce Linda Warden, Chair of the Board of Directors of Rushford.
I was asked to speak to be the comic relief. Thank you, Gene. I forgot my glasses. I have Gene Allen's glasses on. Larry stole part of what I had prepared. It's unbelievable that I actually prepared anything, but Larry stole part of it. But I'm going to go on anyway, okay? A hero is defined by Merriam-Webster as a person who's admired for the great acts or fine qualities, a person who is greatly admired. That would be Jeff Walter. A visionary is someone who is showing clear ideas about what should happen to be done in the future. That is also Jeff Walter. Commitment, a promise to do or give something, to be loyal to something, the attitude of someone who works very hard to do or support something important. That is Jeff Walter. A friend is a person who you like and enjoy being with, and for me, that is Jeff Walter. I have had the great privilege of serving on the Rushford board for probably way longer than anyone should serve on the Rushford board. And during that time, I have gotten to know Jeff. I knew Jeff before that. We had served on a number of community committees together. One of the things that's not talked about tonight is all of the community work that Jeff has done. The United Way, the Rotary, the leadership positions he's had, the chamber, the various committees he's served on at the chamber. We served on some of those committees together, which is where I first met Jeff. Jeff is one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He is dedicated, he is caring, he is even-tempered, which I am not, so I absolutely admire that in Jeff. I tend to be a little crazy, and he is just a smooth, go-ish can. Does a great job at what he does. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. I can't say enough about him. You've all heard about all of his accomplishments. I actually, as the board chair, went on today to the facts and figures part of our website, which I haven't done in a really long time. I won't bore you with all of it, but I want everybody to go home today or tomorrow and to take a look. Because for the last 34 years, Jeff built an agency that was Jeff and a few people who are in this room, to this multi-million-dollar serving many, many people agency with many programs, prevention, detox, mental health, outpatient, inpatient. He had the vision to really develop this program, to spread it to various communities. We now service Meriden, Middletown, Glastonbury, Portland, and Durham, with all kinds of programs that did not exist 34 years ago. He is really, I'm so glad to have such a great turnout tonight for such a wonderful man. Jeff, thank you. Thank you for being a good friend. Thank you for being a good guy, and thank you for being a wonderful leader. I was done, didn't you? Yeah. Everybody else thought I was done too. They've seen the agenda. On behalf of the Rushford Board of Directors and the Rushford folks, I'd like to dedicate this plaque to Jeff Walter in tribute to his 34 years of service and visionary leadership of Rushford. We honor Jeff's passion and commitment toward preventing and alleviating substance abuse, promoting and improving mental health in our community, May 29, 2014. I'm sorry, I was misinformed or not given all of the information. This is the dedication for Rushford that's going to be in Middletown at the Silver Street for Jeff.
I'm not taking it home.
You guys keep one. But apparently there's another one. Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood my instructions. It's the glasses. That's yours. And I have one more thing. Sorry, Larry. One more thing. I also have a certificate of special recognition presented to Jeff Walters in honor of your years of outstanding dedication and visionary leadership from Senator Richard Blumenthal. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Linda. I think, isn't that a truly outstanding honor to have the building dedicated to you and have your name on it in a plaque? At Rushford Center will always have Jeff Walters' name there. Let's have a round of applause. Well deserved, my friend. Now it gives me a great honor to introduce Craig Allen, Medical Director from Rushford.
What's all this talk about Jeff Walter? I came here for a wedding.
Thought you were married.
I am married. I first met Jeff in 2005 over on Pratt Street. And I walked into the interview and Jeff got up from his desk and came around, sat down. And in my experience in interviews with CEOs, that was a really good sign. And I found him to be open, honest, authentic, genuine. But I also found that Jeff is a competitive guy, and he had a competitive edge. And he wanted to develop a high-quality program. He wanted to develop a center of excellence. He wanted to do what you needed to do and take on the challenges you need to take on in order to have that at Rushford. So I was very interested in joining his team. So when Dot Shagru called me and said, you know, what do you think? But being coy and a top-notch negotiator, I said, yeah, that sounds good. About the money. As only Dot can do, she gave the classic Dot laugh, and she said, the money's not going to change. We can work out some other things. I said, okay, I'm there. And I'm glad I took up the offer, and I've enjoyed my experiences working with Jeff through the years. We've heard a lot, and if you've read the program yet, you can see all the accomplishments that Jeff has had from the local level, the state level, federal level. He truly lives and breathes addiction treatment, prevention, mental health treatment, prevention, co-occurring disorders. He does it all. I was telling my wife this on the way here in the car. Actually, I told her that too, but I was talking to my brother the other night, and I said, you know, I was, a few years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist who worked over at Middlesex Hospital. He says, you know, I think I met somebody that you know. And I said, oh, really? Where'd you meet him? He said, I met him over at his house. I was on his couch, and we were talking about primary care and integration and how things could be done differently. And I said, well, who did you meet? And he said, Jeff Walter. This was the Obamacare, the get-together he had over at your house there. And, you know, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was in Washington, D.C., and the room was packed with 4,500 people. And Hillary was coming out to talk. And Hillary, before she started talking, she said she wanted to recognize somebody who's for the work that he's done for addiction services, behavioral health. And she said, Jeff Walter. I said, I know that guy. has been willing, and as I said before, he's been willing to try just about anything. And one of the things that he backed fully, and I was uncomfortable with it, and I was skeptical about it, and I brought the idea to him. It wasn't my idea, but some of the other folks in this room had come up with looked at the ABAM residency. That's the American Board of Addiction Medicine, and the ABAM residency is an elite honor to be able to have the position of teaching physicians about addiction medicine. You have to have a high standard. You have to show that you have a program. You have to show that you have all the services that are needed. You have the physicians and the ancillary staff to do the training. You have to show that you have the resources necessary. And we had some of those things, but the organizations that had these ABAM residencies were very large, well-known organizations, some of which had advertising budgets larger than our bottom line. And I went to Jeff with this, and he, with his vision, saw that this was something that was going to be very, very important for Rushford, and important for Rushford in their role within Hartford Healthcare, certainly within the Behavioral Health Network. So some of the people in this room went to work trying to get this certification, and it was a long and arduous process. It was really a stretch goal. And Jeff made me read a book once. This was a BHAG. This was the big, hairy, audacious goal. That's right. And last spring, we got it. We got this certification, and the other institutions that got it along with us were Stanford, the Betty Ford Clinic, and Yale. So, it's fitting, if you look at the back of your program, that the Jeffrey Walter Fellowship in Addiction Medicine Fund is being established. And this fund, in Jeff's name, will go towards helping to provide the resources to keep this program going forwards. And our plan is to expand this program, and we have our first resident who will be starting getting oriented in June. We have the support from some community organizations like the Hartford Dispensary and Connecticut ASAM, and we were able to get another grant from the Next Generation grant, because this fellow, along with some of the faculty here, applied for this grant through ASAM, and that is to provide education to primary care providers, pediatricians. We're going to be doing some work at Children's Hospital. So we are on our way, and it is because of Jeff's support that we were able to do this, and again, only fitting that it lives on in his name. This is a retirement dinner, but I don't think Jeff plans on fully retiring, Judy. Gotta tell you, he had a webinar last night on integrated care, and that was his second one. So I think he's going to be around for a while. I look forward to continuing to work with him. Thank you, Jeff.
We're very honored to have with us the Commissioner from the Connecticut Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. Being around for as long as I have now, the last 30 plus years dealing with commissioners and elected people, I can tell you that Pat Green